our Vichy shower and a Scotch hose. This Vichy shower is named after Vichy, France, which is a spa town in France known for its healing waters. We're trying to create a feeling of being underneath a waterfall. After being under the warm water, it's about 105 degrees. It's very, very sedating and relaxing. The client is under here for about 10 minutes, and I adjust the shower heads to different pulsations. After this, we do the Scotch hose, which is a hose that's on high pressure. And what we do is we hold it very close to the skin. And the pressure of the water actually acts like a deep massage. It feels wonderful. Try to massage the places where people really like to be massaged. Lower back, between the shoulder blades. Right up here feels wonderful.
We're the Skin Institute and Day Spa. We're an Aveda concept salon and spa. We offer hair, nails, waxing services, facial, massage, Ayurvedic treatments, and hydrotherapy. We have prices that range from anywhere for $15 for a 15-minute mini stress buster massage, like a little stress relief treatment, all the way up to a full day of beauty, which can be about $350. We've been in the Third Ward 5 years. We probably see, I know we see about 1,000 people a week. Third Ward is a great location. We're just beyond downtown. We can get people who work downtown, but maybe they live in the suburbs. It's a convenient location for them to come to because they're already downtown for work. It's a great area. It's booming. It's a neat area. There's a lot of art galleries around. Different types of clothing shops, jewelry shops. It's kind of a neat, funky little area that people want to come down and explore.
If you were describing the Third Ward to somebody from out of town who wasn't familiar with it, how would you describe it?
I would say that it's a neighborhood of old manufacturing buildings primarily that have been converted to condos and residence and offices of professionals. It's a clean area located near Milwaukee's lakefront. It looks like it's the next in place to be. There are more and more people coming down here. There's been a lot of investment down here. A lot of galleries. That's a change from the past. And there's a lot of activity down here. It's just south of the major downtown area. Actually, the restaurant was opened by my uncle and my father in 1946, right after the war. And at that time, this was a light manufacturing industrial area. And it was a daytime activity. There was no activity at night or on the weekends. So they served primarily breakfast and lunch. And I joined them in 1960. We had a couple of restaurants, of which this one in the Third Ward was one. And about 10 years ago, things started happening, maybe about 15 years ago, where the industry moved out. Then it started changing, and some investors came down here and started investing money in the buildings, and it gradually changed over to what it is now and looks to be in the future, which is mostly residential and office, and although it's a mixed use right now. So there's now more activity on nights and weekends. There's a few more restaurants opening up in the neighborhood. The type of person who's down here now is different in terms of his work than was before. There's more office now, and right now things look like they're on the upscale and people are really wanting to be down here, and it's an active neighborhood. It's changing for me. I'm, like I say, I've been down here a long time, and it's, we're a breakfast and lunch crowd where we deal basically with the, working fella, truck drivers, things of that nature. So it is becoming more trendy. Whether the Broadway Bar and Grill will meet that expectation, I'm not sure. But I don't think it'll become too trendy, no.
I'm Doug Kerman. I'm one of the owners of Gallery H2O, which is on Water Street, about a block and a half south of St. Paul in the 3rd Ward District. There are 4 of us that run this gallery. We are all artists that came from a cooperative gallery down in Walker's Point. We've been here about 2 years. We opened up in September of '96. Felt that we just had to make that move from the cooperative type gallery up to a commercial space. We show contemporary art, and we concentrate mostly on local artists. There are a lot of contemporary galleries in Milwaukee, and there are a lot of opportunities for established artists. There are not a lot of opportunities for emerging artists, and that's what we try to concentrate on. There's a lot of reasons why we came here. One of the main reasons is this is the largest conglomeration of, or concentration of galleries in the Milwaukee area. There are about 9 or 10 galleries here. So on our gallery nights, which are held quarterly on the 3rd Friday of every month, people can come here and they can go from gallery to gallery and really get a good sampling of what's going on in Milwaukee as far as the art is concerned.
Well, the Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design is the only 4-year independent college of art in the state of Wisconsin. I think part of our reason for being here and coming here has to do with this kind of ambiance of the 3rd Ward, the river, the loss, the nature of this community is so much like what you see in parts of Paris, in parts certainly of New York, and as I mentioned in Soho, but also in the Village, in the Tribeca area. It had that feel, and artists gravitate to those kinds of spaces. Unfortunately, what oftentimes happens is that artists move into an area like that. They're the first kind of pioneers. They move in, they renovate these spaces, then suddenly the area takes off, and they find, well, it's a great place to have shops and homes, and then it starts to build up, and then the artists find, well, we can't afford to live here any longer, and then they go to the next place, and that's very typical of what's happened in New York. I think since Myatt has been here in '74, as one of those early pioneers, after we established ourselves here, you found a whole group of other arts kinds of organizations who moved here. If we didn't have artists, if we didn't have these kinds of people doing this for us, the world would be a very boring and unexciting and terrible place, I think, to live. Artists know how to take something that may have had some other purpose at one point in time, and they know how to change it and to have a sense of vision of what it can be. And so it's an adaptive reuse of buildings that have long ago maybe outgrown their original content or their original concept of what they were there for.
I opened my gallery, Katie Gingras Gallery, in the 3rd Ward about 10 years ago, but we opened in maybe 82 or 3 in a different location. We thought about moving down here, we thought about it, and one day we woke up and said, okay, today's the day we move. So I contacted the owner of the building, who had been asking us to consider that, and made that move. We weren't pioneers here. The restaurant downstairs was here before we were, but we were here early. and we like this area so much. When I came here, there was a street light on the corner, one street light. Now there must be 25 out there, but it was just much deader than it is today.
Art-Centric and Valenti Design Gallery has been here for over 2 years now, and the type of art that we show is contemporary, regional, original art. And the reason we like it here in the Third Ward is because we personally feel that it's the creative epicenter of Milwaukee. It has that type of an ambiance. The architecture is attractive. There's a lot of creative people in the area. There are a lot of lofts and artist studios in the area. In fact, a number of the works that you'll see here came from studios that are just blocks away.
Well, I've been here 8 years, and the reason I came here, Dan, was because this place has a pulse. It's exciting. I was in the North Shore before, and there are artists down here, and this is my business, so it was a perfect combination. Well, it's got a charm. It's in kind of it's an old warehouse area, big spaces. It's an artist community, first of all, and I think it's an easy place to get around. I think that's, for us as merchants, we love it because you can park anywhere.
It really has become a nurturing place for art, and not only the visual arts, but the performing arts.
No, Frederick, I shall live and die upon the king!
We've been here since 1993. We opened in the fall of 1993. We are basically a two-theater space. One of our theaters seats 360. That's our big theater, small by some standards, but big by our standard. And then a smaller 99-seat, what we call black box theater, a very flexible theater. There are 3 resident companies here, the Skylight Opera Theater, which owns and operates the building, Milwaukee Chamber Theater, and Theater X. And together we put on about 450 performances in these 2 spaces a year. We came down here feeling that we could anchor the south end of the Third Ward because it ends at the river. It's a small area. It really is only about 3 blocks long and about 3 blocks wide. Interestingly, right now, it does attract a higher-end individual, or there aren't many families down here. It's not necessarily a family-friendly environment, but I know there are people who would like to see it be, but for the moment, there aren't too many families down here. So this is really an area for professionals, for single people or couples who have the resources to pay for what it costs to move into some of these beautiful loft spaces down here. There are a lot of lofts now being built. This seems to be the thing of the moment. And they're expensive. They cost quite a bit.
Third Ward was a swamp area, one of the many swamps here in this city, but it also was between the lake and the river, and it offered an opportunity for immigrants for jobs. And the first of those immigrant groups to come were the Irish. Many of them were illiterate and untrained, and they found work along the rivers and the lake, filling in swamps at first, getting roads going later, and then working in the factories and for the railroads as it developed. The Third Ward's been known as the Bloody Third through those years. There's a reported lynching, there was all kinds of fist fights, police were down here all the time. But the Irish stayed. They enjoyed this area, they found work here. The women could walk to the mansions in Yankee Hill and work and find domestic jobs there, and they stayed until the fire.
On the evening of October 28, 1892, an exploding oil barrel started a small fire in the Union Oil and Paint Company warehouse, which was located at 323 North Water Street. Another fire broke out in a nearby factory in the 300 block of North Broadway, where Commission Row is now located. Before morning, 4 persons had died. 215 railroad cars were consumed. 440 buildings were destroyed, and more than 1,900 people in the Irish community were left homeless. In all, the mountain of fire engulfed 16 city blocks within the district. Property loss, the greatest in Milwaukee history, was estimated at $5 million at the time. Reconstruction began immediately. Within 30 years, predominantly Italian warehouse and manufacturing businesses had rebuilt the area, with the majority of the buildings here dating from the 1890s. Today, the magnificent buildings of the historic Third Ward stand as a tribute to the prominent architects who designed these structures and to those merchants who rebuilt the district as the center of dry goods commerce in Milwaukee.
The Italians began moving in. They either rebuilt some of the homes or started new, and they made the Third Ward their home.
They were gradually taking over the Third Ward. More and more were coming in until by 1910 we had close to 3,000 Italians living in Milwaukee, and about 2,772 of them were living in the Third Ward.
Why was it such a tight community?
Well, because that's all they had was each other. That's why. They, not knowing the language, not knowing the customs, you got to remember that these people were from a rural area, let's say either from a farm or from a little fishing village. All they knew was their little village. They rarely went outside of the village to go to another village, for example, or another little town. So what happened was when they got here, they suddenly were thrown into an urban setting, which of course was completely foreign to them. They were all of the same language, all of the same customs, all of the same traditions. It would be like if you and me and a group of us went to China and we would have dumped in a city in China. Well, it's obvious we'd stick together. For the immigrant, it was fine. So what happened was that even their institutions, let's say the church, the mutual aid societies, the newspaper, when the immigrant died, they died. In other words, the Third Ward was an interim period. It was a period where they could, like a way station, they would get adjusted to America, to our customs, and then as they felt secure, they moved out of the Third Ward. This is what happened.
I was born in the corner of Detroit Street and Jackson, which is now a freeway here, and it's called St. Paul Avenue. I was born in 1924. We had 5 bungalow flats, and on the corner was the junk man, Mr. Cohen. And our 5 shacks there were the townhouses of the Third Ward at the time. It was close-knit. It seemed that because they all came from around the same areas of Sicily, they stuck together. They helped each other.
I guess when they came from Italy, they were fishermen, and they got here, there was no real fishing to do, and they had to do something to make a living, so they just started to buy a box of apples and go out and sell it and see if they could turn a profit, and it just seems that's the way it started. But I think it's just for lack of not having any other skills, I think, because a lot of Italians went into this business. The produce dealers here, we sell it on a commission basis. We sell it and take a commission for selling it for the shipper who sent it in. So that's how it became known as commission roll. My grandfather started in 1884. Then my dad got into it around the end of the turn of the century and took over. And he was active till in the 50s, and and then we took over 6 brothers, and we're still, some of us are still active, most of them are retired, and it's just been our whole life, it's been around this nice business.
What do you think Commission Row is going to look like in the years ahead?
Well, I think it probably will not be here. I think that it be all condos, and the buildings will all be revitalized and turned into condos and places like that.
This is the Buffalo building on the corner of Buffalo and Broadway, completed in 1900. It's been a warehouse, light manufacturing for most of its years. And then in 1983 it was sold and was converted to both commercial and residential space. There are people who work in this building who have no idea that the top 2 floors are apartments or condominiums. This is the Young Saddlery Company building, put up in 1896. Milwaukee had a lot of meatpacking firms, and out of the meatpacking business grew leather tanning, and out of leather tanning grew shoemaking and saddle making. And this was one of the companies that made saddles and reins and that for horses. This is engine company number 10, built in 1893. It's to replace the engine company that burned down in that great fire of 1892.
We did a long-range planning session. We decided it's as much a state of mind as it is a collection of buildings and amenities. I live down here, and I compare it to Soho, Tribeca in New York. It's warehouse living. It's adaptive reuse of existing structures in creative ways. It's nice to live in a loft that has 13-foot ceilings.
How have the property values and assessments changed in recent years?
They've gone up dramatically. We were told by the assessor's office that the property values have risen by 42% during the last 2 years. I think in actuality it's been rising steadily over time, but they finally captured that increase. Now there are some individuals who don't believe that their properties are worth that yet, but I think there's a very, very broad consensus that the whole area has just taken off dramatically. The parking situation in the ward isn't as bad as people think. There's about 6 days during Summerfest when it is impacted down here, and it is a little difficult. But people generally learn to work around that. It's only 6 days out of the year, and it's fun to see the people down here and be part of that. So I don't see it necessarily as something that's really detracts from the area. I think it's something that you learn to live with, just like you learn to live with cutting the grass out in the suburbs or whatever. It's just one of the things that's a little bit different about living downtown.
My name is Mike Smith. I have Pier 221, little restaurant here in the back, just down the hall from Gallery H2O. We opened in July of 1996. Located down here basically because I did hold a lease on the building. And I've been down here since 1984, in and out of the building, and my residence is here. Well, the Third Ward is unique. A lot of different shops. We're trying to be a destination for people. We're trying to get a good mix of all kinds of retailers, social life. It's old, it's historic, and it's just now starting to come alive after many years of being dormant. I also live upstairs from the restaurant. This is something I've always wanted to do. I finally got around to doing it. Put the loft in about 4 years ago, and it's starting to take shape. I enjoy it downtown. I enjoy meeting people. I don't have a problem with the traffic. I'm close to the business. I can walk almost any place. I can walk and do almost anything I want to do. There is almost everything that you could possibly want down here.
This is my living space and my workspace. I've been here 14 years, roughly, and I love living here. This space breathes. It speaks of me. It speaks of, I've created an environment here that is nourishing. It welcomes you, and it supports. And we all need that. There are people that have been waiting until their children are gone so that they can come down and live this type of life in a free from lawn care, free from the suburbs, free from a lot of different things, and be able to live more creatively and to express themselves in the way that they live.
The history of the Broadway actually goes back over 100 years. After a devastating fire down here in the 3rd Ward, the 4 buildings that make up the Broadway condominiums were rebuilt between 1893 and 1913. And for most of their history, they were manufacturing and warehouse. In the late 80s, a company out of Philadelphia purchased all 4 buildings and changed the use from warehouse and manufacturing to residential living space. And they built 103 apartments in the building, but they built them with the idea that someday they would be condominiums. Each unit in the building has its own heating system and central air. It has its own water heater. So it's kind of a freestanding living space. And it's been a successful apartment complex for the last 9 years. And now with what's going on in the 3rd Ward and downtown as far as owned residences, it was a perfect time for the owners to take the building to condominium ownership. This unit is a 1-bedroom plus den. It's about 805 square feet and sells for $88,900. The nice thing is that all of the units that we have here at the Broadway have very nice kitchens with fully equipped appliances, microwave hood, oven, range, dishwasher, disposal, and lots of cabinet space and counter space. We've got the living room with a dining area and nice high windows looking out on Broadway. One of our first thoughts was that the higher floored units would be more attractive and appeal to people, but we're finding out that the units, even on the 2nd floor, have some of the nicest streetscapes. You can watch the traffic going by and do the people watching. It's turned out to be very appealing to be on the 2nd or 3rd floor in the building. This one happens to be on the 2nd floor. Also, as we move on, the bedrooms feature large closets. Many of the units will incorporate features or architectural details of the old building, including brick walls and some tin ceilings, that sort of thing. But people are also looking for a lot of space, and so this is a comfortable sized bedroom with a huge walk-in closet. As I mentioned, this is a 1-bedroom den, and this is the den. It can be used as a 2nd bedroom, or an office, or just a place to come and relax. This unit is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath model. It's on the 1st floor overlooking Broadway, and it's sold for $104,900. In addition, the purchaser also acquired a parking space for another $12,000. On the 1st floor, you get the magnificent 12-foot ceilings. So you've got some great gallery walls, wonderful windows overlooking the street. Most of the buyers are going to be putting in blinds that will raise from the bottom or from the top down to give them more privacy when they want it, but still give them a view when they look out. Being a 2-bedroom, we also have 2 baths and a great master bedroom with the brick walls, walk-in closets.
Well, we lived in Burlington, where we raised our family, and moved here about 6 years ago because I was working in a studio over on 2nd and Pittsburgh, and so I used to walk around this area and got to know it pretty well for about 3 or 4 years, and always said, someday I'm going to live in one of those buildings, or I'm going to buy a building, or I really like this neighborhood, and that was 8 years ago, I guess. So a friend of mine who was in the real estate business and also an artist, I kidded her and said, can you find me a place down here? And she came up with this place, just, you know, it was just like that. And then, and then we asked Bob to come see it because he said no, he'd never live in Milwaukee. And so
no way was I going to live in Milwaukee. She lived here, and she had her own apartment here for about 4.5 years, going to school, studying under one of the masters of art. And she kept saying, let's find a place in Milwaukee. Well, I'd look at them, and I'd, no way. And then one day, this friend of hers brought us over to this place. I looked at it, went home, put our house up for sale, and that was it. It's also a very safe community. As I said, we're a city within a city, and I would not hesitate to walk outside there at 3 o'clock in the morning and walk around our city.
What do you say when people say, well, do you miss a yard and a garage and a place to cook out, things like that?
No, absolutely not.
I don't either.
Your assessed value is more than $300,000. For that kind of money, you could buy a big home in the suburbs.
Right.
Is this worth it?
Oh, yes, because we might as well have stayed in Burlington if we wanted a big house in the suburbs.
Right. Yeah.
Hello. Well, I work for the Milwaukee Police Department out of District Number 1, which covers the downtown area and the historic 3rd Ward. And I've been assigned as the Neighborhood Foot Patrol Officer in the historic 3rd Ward for about 8 months now. And included in my duties, I ride a bicycle and patrol this area. And the job is basically preventative in nature down here. It's a very low crime rate. I tell them it's one of the safest areas I've worked in the city. I've worked on the north side, I've worked on the south side, west end, and by far this is the best area of the city that I've ever worked in. Crime is, I don't want to say it's non-existent, but I've never had any severe, major problems. There's an occasional theft or minor incident here and there, but there basically is almost non-existent crime down here. I only see it staying the same or getting better because I believe the people that are coming down here as improving the neighborhood and wanting to be part of this community. It's a very tight-knit community down here, the businesses as well as the citizens who live down here, and they all have a stake in the neighborhood, and that's very good to help a neighborhood. It's for the people to have a stake in it.
Well, I think because it's gun shooting at people, it can be misconstrued, but anybody who's actually played knows that it's just a game.
Okay, Andy, let's move up here.
Paintball is a game that is played by two teams. The object is to splatter the other team with paintballs while trying to capture their flag. We've been in the 3rd Ward 10 years now. This is a good place for our business. We're right in the heart of downtown. Everything seems to happen downtown. We feel it's part of our success. Most of our customers are Milwaukee's companies, corporate events, that type of thing. We also do a lot of bachelor parties.
With this whole rebirth of the 3rd Ward taking place right now, couldn't you make a lot more money by selling this building to some developer who wants to make it into high-priced condos?
Yes, I surely would say yes to that question. But this is what we do, and we love doing it, and I'd have to give that up.
And you aren't prepared to do that?
And I'm not prepared to do that, no. Oh, shit! Oh, right in the boobie. Oh, wait, that hurt more than I wanted it to.
This building was a warehouse. It went through a lot of different stages. It was a toy warehouse. It was railroad salvage for a while. It was an auction house, and we took over in 1990. So we've been here a little over 8 years now. We've got 3 floors that we use, the basement, this floor, and upstairs, 2nd floor, about 40,000 square feet. We are what is called a mall. In other words, we have booths that we rent out to dealers and sell their merchandise. We have close to 100 dealers here. Okay, this is a jeweler's clock. Came out of a jewelry shop. It's almost 11 foot tall. It's all walnut. Probably dates from about 1870 or so, East Lake style. We don't know the maker. It doesn't have a maker's mark on it. We're asking $8,500 for it, but it's really, really a great piece. It's in 3 sections, so easy moving, but you have to have a tall ceiling for it. It's a great piece, so just don't find these. It's about 1870, 1865, 1870. This is just a unique set. It's Renaissance Victorian. It's solid walnut. It has some veneer on it. It's all original. Again, we're talking about 10 foot tall, so you really have to have big house, big ceilings. There's the ladies' dresser, commode, another commode, and the bed. The bed is a full double. And this whole set runs about $22,000. Oh, I think everybody's interested in history. You know, if you pick up something that's, say, from the 18th century, and you hold it in your hand, or sit on it, or eat at it, and you start imagining who else ate at this. I mean, what 18th century person made this? Or glass, say a piece of Tiffany. The history in that, it's just, it gets to people.
I'm an art glass and antiques dealer, and I've been down here in the Third Ward now for 3.5 years. We opened the shop in 1995. An example of American art glass, the finest name in American art glass is Tiffany and Steuben. And here's a very nice example of Tiffany in a gold Favreau finish with a leaf and vine decoration that's reverse cut into the glass, which is called intaglio cutting. And if you can see the piece, I don't know if the camera picks it up, but it has very strong highlights of blue and purple, which was typical of Tiffany's Favreau glass. And a piece like this, this piece is $2,250. Here's a rather large Steuben Aurine gold vase. Aurine was a very popular Steuben glass. Steuben only made color glass from their inception until about 1933. And since then, they've only made clear crystal glass. This piece is $2,500. This cabinet is mostly European glass, and some few examples that might be of interest. Here's a lovely piece of Gallet. This is a miniature piece. Gallet was the premier glassmaker of the Art Nouveau period, and he did mostly cameo glass and enamel glass. And this is a very small representation of his work. All Gallet glass is very, very expensive. This piece is $1,200. Other French glassmakers, here's a chipped ice vase that's embellished with gold enamel work. This piece is Legras, and this is $1,950. These pieces, by the way, are all from the turn of the century, or maybe slightly even earlier. And here's a piece of English, Thomas Webb and Sons. This is crystal rainbow glass. This is multicolored glass in stripes that's cased in crystal. And this piece is $1,395.
We are Babian Rug Company. We're a family-owned business. We've been in business since 1910. We had the opportunity to grow, and we grew down to here.
Well, we opened 2.5 years ago. That's when this spot became available. I had been watching the Third Ward for a long time. I watched it being developed and growing into an old world type look, the kind of look that Milwaukee used to have.
What you're looking at here is approximately a 20-year-old Turcoman piece. It comes from the Turcoman region near the Soviet border. It's all hand spun, natural dyes with some synthetic dyes. We call this a European size, being a 7 foot by 10 foot, due to this type of size is more ready available in the European areas. A rug this size in this particular piece retails at about $3,300.
We're lucky to show you this 10 foot by 19 foot Tabriz, semi-antique. So we're talking like 1930s, on an off-white field, all hand-spun wools, vegetable dyed, up to as many as 20, perhaps 30 different colors, and then we still have the different shades and hues, as when they're dyeing a piece like this, the color matures, and some colors fade down more than others, and some actually enhance and become more beautiful. Another feature in this carpet that's just spectacular is the use of the birds, where they almost turn into flowers. And then we have some more symbolic meanings that come in, where like in areas like that, if you were to focus on it from the side a little better, it almost as if the weaver has wove herself into that carpet. To wit, we have what you're looking at would be in the retail region of about $80,000, $90,000.
It's a walk back in history, Milwaukee history. These buildings take you back in time. If you really study what's down here and the people that live down here, it tells you a lot about how Milwaukee developed.
We opened the Third Ward Cafe 16 years ago, 1982.
How has the Third Ward changed since you've been here?
A lot more excitement, a lot more people. When we were here initially, there were very few other businesses. There were some, but very few. There was almost no retail. And now there's a considerable amount of really high quality retail in the area, as well as many other fine restaurants. I think now is when it's really taking off. What we thought was going to happen 15 years ago, I see happening within the next 3 years.
You opened your place down here when? Why down here?
1976, I bought the place. Basically, because it wasn't a neighborhood bar. I didn't want to be in a residential neighborhood with a lot of families and kids around.
Why?
Well, just I was catering to a gay clientele down here, even back in the early 70s, and neighborhood bar just wouldn't work. There's tons of them on the market for sale, but this was ideal because there was nobody around. The businesses were closed that night, and plenty of parking. It was perfect for me, for what I wanted it for.
What do you think of what's happening down here the last 2 or 3 years?
It's good and bad. The bad thing is the traffic it brings down here, which really screws up business. My regular clientele doesn't. It has a hard time getting in. But everything else goes with the city improvements, the lighting of the streets, the safety. There's more light down here. There's more patrolling down here. So there's much more of an upside to it, but there is some downsides that come with it too.
Are you surprised at what's happening here? Why all of a sudden?
Well, it really isn't all of a sudden. I say this goes back 15, 20 years already when it started. I say when I built the dining room on added that addition on 18 years ago, already there was lots of restrictions coming because this was part of the development, and they didn't want anything that was not going to fit into the neighborhood historically, building-wise. So it's not something that's just happened. It's just finally really catching fire. The coals have been going more or less for a number of years, but now it's really caught on fire. It's going great guns.
Last question. Now the assessments are going up. It's a beautiful place to be. Very hip, very trendy, very happening. Do you have a lot of people knocking on your door saying, I want to buy that building from you?
Not a one. A couple of years ago when Mr. Heck was alive yet from the knitting mill across the street, he wanted parking, but I don't think he was aware of what was really happening. He's not with us anymore, but no, nobody's offered to buy the place. It's gone up $98,000 this year, increased $98,000 tax base, so that's a little scary, which means you're going to have, the money's got to come from someplace. You're going to have
What are you assessed at now?
It's not that bad. It's just around 300. So yeah, compared to being 65 when I bought it,
You went up to 98, or you went up a 98?
It went up 98,000. It went up an additional 98,000.
We opened the Milwaukee Ale House in October of 1997, and the reason we picked the Third Ward is we wanted to find a place where wasn't necessarily completely prime real estate at the time, but was going to grow into the future. So we wanted a place that was a little bit of a sleeper, and we were very surprised to see that sleeping kind of woke up right away, and things have been going real fast down here in the Third Ward. One of the things when we were writing up our business plan for starting the ale house is we said, who drinks beer? And it's a very wide demographic, and Milwaukee has got a history built on the brewing industry. And after watching Pabst close down and Schlitz and Blatz and all these other breweries move out of town, there's really a rich history and an international fame really for Milwaukee and the brewing industry. So we wanted to capitalize on that awareness, and that's why we named it the Milwaukee Ale House and rooted ourselves here so that we could build off of that heritage.
Why do you think that after being a sleepy side of town for so long, all of a sudden in the last few years, it's exploded down here?
I think the reason that it is that there's a rich history here, and the buildings are beautiful, and there's a lot of people that care about the Third Ward that are down here now. So what we're seeing is people interested in staying down here. It's not just coming in, making a quick buck, and getting out of town. The ale house is in here for a long term, and we are rooted here, and a lot of people appreciate that. And so we've seen a very positive response to our business here as a place where people can gather, where there wasn't any place public really like that, the size of this in the Third Ward until now.
Yeah, right there, right there. Beautiful. Chin down just slightly. Awesome. Good job. Just a little bit, chin up just slightly. Don't turn away quite so much. Keep facing towards me there. Yeah. Profiled away. There we go. Oh, yeah, there we go. Good. I opened my photo studio in 1991, January of 1991. We chose the Third Ward mainly because at the time the rents were really cheap, and it was a pretty tight core group of ad people, like ad agencies, other photographers. We have a photo lab right across the street. So it was a lot of convenience as far as the people, the core group of people I worked with were right down here. All the things we needed, like the art supplies, the photo processing, were within walking distance of this studio. And it had everything we needed for what we needed for a really cheap price. It has hardwood floors, which kind of gives it a New York feel. It has brick walls, which I've used several times on photo shoots. It was just warm and cozy and gave it kind of that New York studio feel really, really quickly without having to spend a lot of money updating the place. Oh, in my hand, right there, good. One of the nice things about the area is it's a community of people who know everybody and try and help everybody. Where I think it's going to go is there seems to be, because this is the hip place to be, a ton of money coming in here from investors, from bigger businesses from Chicago or wherever. They're just dumping a ton of money in here, and the price, to rent space, to operate a business down here is going to get so unrealistic that small business people like ourselves or people just starting out aren't going to be able to afford to even come in here and even give it a try. And that's kind of too bad, because that was one of the great things when I came is everybody knew everybody here, and if you needed any help with anything, you could ask just about anybody on the street, hey, do you have this, do you have that, or can you help me with that? And they'd, be glad to help you. I mean, it was a real kind of camaraderie amongst all the artists that were down here.
We moved out in 1984. The fountains are Brazilian slate. They come in 4 or 5 styles. This seems to be the best item, but it's not available until the middle of July. This fountain was made by a doctor, but if you look at the way the copper is and the way it's soldered, he had to drill through the stone to go up to get this nice sound. On fountains, the more the water you put in, the less of the noise. Waters that have less water, like this one, you get a nice sound to it. This is hand carved from Thailand. A very eclectic environment. The kind of store where you have to expect the unexpected. Extremely comfortable. They're made from golf clubs. Or the bar stools that are faced like his and hers. There's not much to say about the clock because it's very obvious. Because it's made out of a rubber that's pressed. It's very, very strong. This pieces are paper and leather. The Third Ward is a love-hate with me. There are times where I think it's great, but I think they have tried to make it too cutesy. People want an escape. And that's what the Third Ward should be, etc., etc., etc.
I opened Arc East on Broadway Street in 1993. Started off mostly doing just custom framing for individuals. We've been working more and more with corporate accounts and doing personalized collages now. What I do is I make personalized collages for my clients. This diagrams how this works. This poster right here, I used this vase, this bowl, and these two pairs. I work with a lot of different kinds of decorative papers, and here are 3 family photographs that are incorporated into the collage that I produced. So this piece incorporates these pieces over here that I just discussed. All this background here is pretty much papers and paints. Here's the vase, here's the bowl, here's the 2 pairs. This checkerboard here is paper as well. I painted in shadows. And here are the 3 photographs. These are laser prints. I don't work with, I use the originals, but I laser print them because I don't want to work with originals.
Okay, this is the Beck Carton Corporation. We have been here since 1960, the end of 59, 60 we moved in, and I've been here 39 years. I started working here just before we moved into this building. Our predominant business is folding cartons for electronic switches, pharmaceuticals, cosmetics, that sort of thing. Smaller boxes, display boxes, but smaller display boxes. Since I've moved in, there's less industry, less establishments for eating, but more people. The quality of the buildings is improving, and as a result, bringing more people in. But as far as the population working in the Third Ward, I would say it's fewer. You have more people here, but it's because there are residents and students. I'd say this is a national trend, not only here, but we had bought a printing press in Chicago 15, 20 years ago, and at that time the building that we were removing this machine from was going to be built into condos, and the building across the street was being built into condos. So, and that was right in downtown Chicago. So I'd say we're following a trend.
Our business is reliable knitting work, started by my father in 1911 with his 2 brothers. We make hats and scarves and slippers and golf sock covers and mittens, and that's about all. We moved to the Third Ward 30 years ago, and the Third Ward was really mostly just empty buildings. They want to keep building parking things. I hope they don't tear us down for that. But as long as we've been here 90 years, I think we have seniority rights. And we'll fight. No, I think we'll be here. I know we'll never move to any other country. I know we'll never move to any other city. So I think we'll always be Third Warders.
What are you hoping happens down here in the next few years?
That we get some more residents down here. We've already got, like with the Broadway apartments have gone condominium, so there's like 105 units in there. With the 79 over at the Riverwalk, I mean, that's a lot of residents. We do need more nighttime entertainment down here. That's one thing we don't have. But I can see it building up into a really neat neighborhood where we have a grocery store and a drugstore and a dry cleaner. We don't have any of those things down here right now. But I think as more residents move in, we'll get what we need.
Do you worry that it will become too hip and too modern and just too much of the beautiful people?
No, I don't. I think it'll just stay the same. I mean, hip and modern. I mean, we've got the highest concentration of art galleries. We have the most antique galleries down here, the antique shops. they're not all hip and modern. I mean, I don't know, I wouldn't say that at all. I don't think hip and modern is the, I mean, it's a trendy place, but the people that live down here all aren't trendy. They just like being downtown. They're close to Summerfest, they're close to downtown. I mean, that's kind of like labeling us, and I don't think the Third Ward is really, I mean, we're hip and trendy, but the people that live down here I don't think really are.
We need more restaurants. We need more things to do at night. But this is the best part of Milwaukee.
What do you think is going to happen in the next couple of years?
I'm going to see an expansion of the full Riverwalk development all the way along here and watch that go all the way down to Summerfest. A lot more boat docks along the river, so there'll be a lot more traffic, an increase in residential down here in the Third Ward, a lot more parking, a lot more shops, farmers market. I've heard a lot of different development pieces that are going to be coming in.
We never want the ward to become a yuppified place because that would lose a lot of its charm. The whole point about the Third Ward is that it is a mixture of people doing very interesting things, and not all creative people are wealthy. So we want to make sure that as the area develops that there's always a place for people who are doing the kinds of things that we like, which is art, theater, music, education. Those types of things are really necessary. And we don't want to lose our industrial component because there are very few places that you can go in Milwaukee and feel safe and sit around and see a microcosm of the entire city around you and enjoy it.
Why is it important that we preserve this and that we remember this history?
Because it's part of our history. It's part of the history of Milwaukee. We are not just a single person in an area. We are a collection of people. And what happened to the Irish, what happened to the Italians, what happened to this neighborhood is a part of our history. And we need to preserve that. And we need to teach it to the young people. And we can't teach those things to them if we tear everything down.